Beginning of Exile in Dapitan. The streamer Cebu, which brought Rizal to Dapitan, carried a letter from Father Pablo Pastels, superior of Gisut Parish Priest in Dapitan. In this letter, Father Superior Pastel informed Father Obach that Rizal could live in a parish convent on the following conditions. First, that Rizal publicly retract his errors concerning religion and make statements that were clearly pro-Spanish and against revolution. Second, that he performs the church rites and make a general confession of his past life. Third, that henceforth he conduct himself in an explanatory manner as a Spanish subject and as a man of religion. Rizal, consequently, he lived in the house of the commandant, Captain Carcenero. The warden came to know that Rizal was not a common felon, much less a filibusterismo. He gave him complete freedom to go anywhere, reporting once a week to his office and allow him to ride his horse. Rizal in Dapitan. Rizal lived in exile in a faraway Dapitan, a remote town in Mindanao which was under the missionary jurisdiction of the Jesuit from 1892 to 1896.
On September 21, 1892, the mail boat Butuan was approaching the town of Dapitan carrying a lottery ticket number 9736, jointly owned by Captain Carnicero, Dr. Rizal, and Francisco Equino, Spanish resident of Dipolog, a neighboring town of Dapitan, won the second prize of 20,000 pesos in the government-owned Manila lottery. Rizal's share of the winning lottery ticket was 6,200 pesos. He gave 2,000 pesos to his father and 200 pesos to his friend Basa in Hong Kong, and the rest he invested well by purchasing agricultural lands along the coast of Talisay, about 1 kilometer away from Dapitan. Rizal's winning in the Manila lottery reveals an aspect of his lighter side. He never drank hard liquor and never smoked, but he was a lottery addict. This was his only vice, commented Wenceslao E. Ritana, his first Spanish biographer and former enemy. During the early part of his exile in Dapitan, Rizal lived at the commandant's residence. With his prize from the Manila lottery and his earnings as a farmer and a merchant, he bought a piece of land near the shore of Talisay near Dapitan. On this land, he built 3 houses, all made of bamboo, wood, and nipa. The first house, which was square in shape, was his home. The second house was the living quarters of his pupils, and the third house was the barn where he kept his chickens. The second house had 8 sides, while the third had 6 sides. In a letter to his friend Ferdinand Blumentritt on December 19, 1893, Rizal described his peaceful life in Dapitan. How we live here. I have 3 houses, one square, another hexagonal, and the third octagonal. All these houses are made of bamboo, wood, and nipa. I live in the square house, together with my mother, my sister Trinidad, and my nephew. In the octagonal house live some young boys who are my pupils. The hexagonal house is my barn where I keep my chickens. From my house, I hear the murmur of a clear brook which comes from the high rocks. I see the seashore where I keep two boats, which are called baratos here. I have many fruit trees, such as mangoes, lanzones, guyabanas, balono, nangka, etc. I have rabbits, dogs, cats, and other animals. I rise early in the morning at 5, visit my plants, feed the chickens, awaken my people, and prepare our breakfast. At 7:30, we eat our breakfast, which consists of tea, bread, cheese, sweets, and other things. After breakfast, I treat the poor patients who come to my house. Then I dress and go to Dapitan in my barato. I am busy the whole morning, attending to my patients in town. At noon, I return home to Talisay for lunch. Then, from 2 to 4 p.m., I am busy as a teacher. I teach the young boys. I spend the rest of the afternoon in the farming. My pupils help me in watering the plants, pruning the fruits, and planting many kinds of trees. We stop at 6 p.m. for the angelos. I spend the night reading and writing.
Idyllic life in Dapitan. In Dapitan, Rizal had an exemplary life, idyllic and serenity. On August 1893, members of his family took turns in visiting him in order to assuage his loneliness in the isolated outpost of Spanish power in the Moralan. Among his family members who visited Rizal were his mother, his sister Trinidad, Maria, and Narcisa, nephews Judasio, Stanislao, Mauricio, and Prudencio. Rizal built a house by the seashore of Talisay, surrounded by fruit trees, a school for boys, and a hospital for his patients. On December 19, 1893, Rizal wrote to Blooming Treat describing his life in Dapitan. Rizal's encounter with the friar's spy, Pablo Mercado, assumed name of the spy who visited Rizal at his house and pretended to be a relative by showing a photo of Rizal and a pair of buttons with the initials PM as evidence of kinship. The spy offered to be Rizal's courier of letters for the patriots in Manila. Rizal became suspicious and wanted to throw the spy outside, but considering his values in late hour of the night, he offered the spy to spend the night at his house. The next day, he sent the spy away. The spy stayed in Dapitan and spread talks among the people that he was a relative to Rizal. Rizal went to the Comandasya and reported the impostor to Captain Juan Sitges, successor of Carnicero. Sitges ordered Pablo Mercado's arrest and told Anastasio Adriatico to investigate him immediately. The secret mission of Pablo Mercado was not an assassination attempt, but espionage, only flat concocted by the friars. Rizal as a physician in Dapitan. Doña Teodora and Maria lived with Rizal for a year and a half. It is here when Rizal operated his mother's right eye. Though the operation was successful, his mother had a wound infection after ignoring Rizal's instruction of not removing the bandages. However, the infection was immediately treated. He had many patients that came from Luzon, Bohol, Cebu, Panay, Negros, Mindanao, and even from Hong Kong. Rizal became interested in the local medicine. Rizal prescribed medicinal plants for his poor patients. Water system in Dapitan. As a Pareto agrimensor, expert surveyor, Rizal applied his engineering knowledge by constructing a system of waterworks to provide clean water for the townsmen. Mr. H.F. Cameron, an American engineer who praised Rizal for his engineering ingenuity. Community projects in Dapitan. When Rizal arrived in Dapitan, he decided to improve it, to the best of his God-given talents and to awaken the civic consciousness of its people. Rizal had, first, drained the marshes to get rid of malaria that was infesting Dapitan. Second, equipped the town with a lighting system using 500 pesos of its patients paid him. The lighting system consisted of a coconut oil lamps. And third, beautify the town of Dapitan by remodeling the town plaza and making a huge relief map of Mindanao out of earth, stones, and grass. Rizal as a teacher. Rizal established a school in Dapitan. It began with 3 pupils who increased to 16 and eventually 21. 16 of his pupils did not pay tuition. Instead of charging them fees, Rizal made them work in his gardens and construction projects. Formal classes were between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. He also applied the emperor system like that of Ateneo. During recess, pupils build fires to drive away insects, prune fruit trees, and manure the soil. Outside class hours, students had gymnastics, boxing, wrestling, stone throwing, swimming, and boat riding. Linguistic Studies. Rizal continued the studies of languages learned in Dapitan. He knew by that time 22 languages as follows: Tagalog, Malay, Ilocano, Hebreo, Visayan, Sanskrit, Subanum, Dutch, Spanish, Catalan, Latin, Italian, Greek, Chinese, English, Japanese, French, Portuguese, German, Swedish, Arabic, and Russian. Artistic work in Dapitan. Rizal pursued his artistic activities in Dapitan. He contributed paintings to the Sisters of Charity who were preparing the sanctuary of the Holy Virgin. He made sketches of people and the things that attracted him in Dapitan. He modeled a statue called the Mother's Revenge to stress the moral of the incidents where a puppy of his dog Syria was eaten by a crocodile. He constructed a statue of a girl called the Dapitan Girl, a wood carving of Josephine Bracken. He made a bust of St. Paul for Father Pastels. Rizal as a businessman. Ramon Carrion is Rizal's businessman partner in Dapitan. They made profitable business ventures in fishing, copra, and hemp industries. Hemp industries is Rizal's most profitable business. Once he shipped 150 bales of hemp to Manila, he purchased hemp in Dapitan at 7 pesos and 4 reals per pisol, and he sold it to Manila at 10 pesos and 4 reals. Rizal also engaged in lime manufacturing, capacity of more than 400 bags of lime. On January 1, 1895, he organized the Cooperative Association of Dapitan Farmers to break Chinese monopoly. According to its constitution, which he had drafted, its purposes were to improve the farm products, obtain better outlets for them, collect funds for their purchases, and help the producers and workers by establishing a store wherein they can buy farm commodities at moderate prices. Rizal inventive ability. He invented a cigarette lighter which he sent as gift to Blooming Kit, called sulpukan. It was made of wood. Its mechanism is based on the principle of compressed air. Rizal and Josephine Bracken. The death of Leonor Rivera left a poignant void in Rizal's heart. In his loneliness, he met the daughter of James and Elizabeth Jane Bracken. Josephine, an Irish girl of sweet 18, who was born in Hong Kong. Mr. George Stauffer, a man who adopted Josephine after her mother died of childbirth, became blind so that he sought for an ophthalmic specialist. This is how Josephine and Rizal met. Rizal and Josephine Bracken decided to get married, but Father Obak refused to wed them without the permission of Bishop of Cebu. Hearing of the planned marriage and unable to endure the thought of losing Josephine, Mr. Taufer tried to commit suicide by cutting off his throat with a razor. But Rizal was able to prevent this. To avoid tragedy, Josephine accompanied Mr. Taufer to Hong Kong alone, while Josephine stayed with Rizal in Manila. Having no priest to bless them, Rizal and Josephine wed themselves before the eyes of God. The two were happy for they were expecting a baby. However, Rizal played a prank on Josephine, making her give birth to an 8-month baby boy. The baby lived for only 3 hours. He was named Francisco, in honor of Rizal's father. Rizal wrote a poem which entitled Josephine, Josephine. Rizal and the Katipunan. While Rizal was mourning for the loss of his son, ominous clouds of revolution gradually darkened the Philippine skies. Andres Bonifacio, the great plebeian, was sowing the seeds of an armed uprising. The secret revolutionary society called Katipunan, which he founded on July 7, 1892, was gaining more and more adherents. Pio Valenzuela boarded the steamer Valenzuela to reach Dapitan and sent an emissary in order to inform Rizal of the plan of Katipunan during the meeting at a river called Bitukang Manok. Alongside him was Raimundo Mata, a blind man that came with Valenzuela to camouflage his mission.
Rizal first Christmas in Dapitan. No wonder Rizal enjoyed his first Christmas in Dapitan. He was one of the guests of Captain Carnicero at a Christmas Eve dinner in the Comandancia, House of Commandant. The other guests were 3 Spaniards from the neighboring town of Dipolog and a Frenchman named Jean Lardet. It was a merry feast. Rizal Pastel debate on religion. During his exile in Dapitan, Rizal had a long and scholarly debate with Father Pastel on religion, which revealed Rizal's anti-Catholic ideas, acquired in Europe and embitterment at his persecution by bad friars. It is understandable why he was bitter against the friars, who committed certain abuses under the cloak of religion. As he wrote to Blumentritt from Paris on January 20, 1890, I want to hate the friars, but only friars who utilize religion not only as a shield, but also as a weapon, castle, fortress, armor, etc. I was forced to attack their false and superstitious religion in order to fight the enemy who hid himself behind it. According to Rizal, individual judgment is a gift from God, and everybody should use it like a lantern to show the way in that self-esteem. If moderate by judgment saves man from unworthy acts, he also argued that the pursuit of truth may lie in different paths, and those religious may vary, but they all lead to the light.
Rizal as a farmer in Dapitan. On this land in Talisay, Rizal actually built a permanent home. With the help of the pupils and some laborers, he cleared it and planted cacao, coffee, coconut, and fruit trees. Later, he bought more lands in other barrios of Dapitan. In due time, his total land holding holdings reached 70 hectares. They contained 6,000 abaca plants, 1,000 coconut palms, mainly coffee and cacao plants, and numerous kinds of fruit trees. Thank you. Rizal dreamed of establishing an agricultural colony in the city of Panot near Sandingan Bay. This region contained plenty of water and good port facilities. He believed that it could accommodate about 5,000 heads of cattle and 40,000 coconut palms. It was also ideal for the cultivation of coffee, cacao, and sugarcane because of its fertile soil and favorable climate. Thank you.
Rizal challenged a Frenchman to a duel. While Rizal was still debating with Father Fastel by means of exchange of letters, Rizal was become involved in a quarrel with a French acquaintance in Dapitan, Mr. Juan Lardet, a businessman. This man purchased many logs were of poor quality. Miranda indistinctly forwarded Lardet's letter to Rizal, one of the weakness of heroes. It should be noted with sensibility. When Rizal read Lardet's letter, he fluttered upon in anger, regarding the Frenchman's unsavory comment as an affront to his integrity. Immediately, he confronted Larget and challenged him to a duel. Rizal is an expert in martial arts, particularly in fencing and pistol shooting. Rizal as a painter in Dapitan. Dr. Jose Rizal was very flexible that he had so many talents. He made various paintings, sketches, as well as sculptures. Having a lot of sweethearts, he made portraits of names mostly made by oil canvas as in medium. In Dapitan, Rizal demonstrated his talent for painting. Before the Holy Week of 1894, Father Vicente Balaguer, a young Jesuit priest, was worried. He needed a good backdrop canvas oil painting behind the main altar for the annual Lenten celebration.
Rizal's last Christmas in Dapitan. The Christmas of 1895 was one of the happiest events in Rizal's life. It is because of the presence of Josephine, who proved to be a loving wife and a good housekeeper. She was now used to live a simple life in the Philippines. She was industrious and learned to cook all sorts of native dishes. In his letter to his sister Trinidad, on September 25, 1895, Rizal praised Josephine, thus she cooks, washes, takes care of the chickens in the house, in the absence of Mickey for making pancit. She made some long macaroni noodles out of flour and eggs, which serves the purpose. If you can send me a little langka, I should be grateful to you, for she makes bagoong. She also makes chili miso, but it seems to me that what we have will last for 10 years. On December 25, 1895, Rizal and Josephine gave a Christmas party at their home in Talisay. By a strange twist of fate, It proved to be Rizal's last Christmas in Dapitan. Rizal roasted a small pig to golden brown over a slow fire. He also made chicken broth out of a fat hen. He invited all his neighbors. They all danced and made merry until dawn. Writing to his sister Trinidad on January 15, 1896, Rizal described his last Christmas party in Dapitan. We celebrated merrily, as almost always. We roasted a small pig and hen. We invited our neighbors. There were dancing and we laughed a great deal until dawn. On December 25, 1895, Rizal and Josephine gave a Christmas party at their home in Talisay. By a strange twist of fate, it proved to be Rizal's last Christmas in Dapitan. Rizal roasted a small pig to golden brown over a slow fire. He also made chicken broth out of a fat hen. He invited all his neighbors. They all danced and made merry until dawn. Writing to his sister Trinidad on January 15, 1896, Rizal described his last Christmas party in Dapitan. We celebrated merrily, as almost always. We roasted a small pig and hen. We invited our neighbors. There were dancing and we laughed a great deal until dawn.
Rizal volunteered as military doctor in Cuba. When Cuba was under revolution and raging yellow fever epidemic, Rizal wrote to Governor General Ramon Blanco offering his services as military doctor. On July 1, 1896, Governor Blanco later notified Rizal of the acceptance of the offer. The notification came along of acquiring first as pass for Manila from the politico-military commander of Dapitan. Adios, Dapitan. On the morning of July 31, 1896, his last day in Dapitan, Rizal busily packed his things. He was scheduled to leave the town on board the España, which was sailing back to Manila. He had sold his lands and other things he owned to his friends, mostly natives in Dapitan.
At 5:30 in the afternoon, he and 8 other companions embarked on the steamer. His 8 companions were Josephine, Narcisa, his sister, Angelica, daughter of Narcisa, his 3 nephews, Mauricio, son of Maria Rizal, Stanislav, son of Lucia Rizal, and Teodosio, another son of Lucia Rizal, and Mr. and Mrs. Sonico. Almost all the Dapitan folks, young and old, were at the shore to see the departure of their beloved doctor. The pupils of Rizal cried, for they could not accompany their dear teacher. Captain Carnicero, in full regalia of a commandant's uniform, was on hand to say goodbye to his prisoner, whom he had come to admire and respect. The town brass band played the music of the farewell ceremony. At midnight Friday, July 31, 1896, the steamer departed for Manila. The Dapitan folk shouted, "Adios, Dr. Rizal," and threw their hats and handkerchiefs in the air. Captain Carnicero saluted his departing friend. As the steamer left the town, the brass band played the music of Chapin's farewell march. Rizal was in the upper deck, with tears in his eyes. He raised his hand in farewell to the kind and hospitable people of Dapitan, saying, "Adios, Dapitan." He gazed at the crowded shore for the last time. His heart was filled with sorrow. When he could no longer see the dim shoreline, he turned sadly into his cabin. He wrote in his diary, "I have been in the district 4 years, 13 days, and a few hours.